Hello, hello. Welcome, whoever, wherever, whenever you are. Thank you for showing up. I'm Denise Matto, and I have some thoughts to share from not only from personal experience, but from stuff I've been watching and thinking about a lot lately. Oh, I got my neighbor's child is singing. I don't know if you can hear it. Anyway, as we get older, we have to consider what we face. Now, people are used to thinking about this, like, especially if an insurance salesman knocks on your door and says, well, you know, you ready, or someone's talking about retirement pensions. We think about it in terms of money. When you're in your 40s and 50s, you're probably thinking a lot about how much it's going to cost you to live on a retirement income when you're in your 60s and 70s. You're thinking financially, and you're thinking about providing for yourself so you don't have to move in with your crazy drunk nephew or somebody else. So we're already used to that. But here's an idea. No matter what age you are, or what age the person you take care of is, you should be looking at the next 5 to 10 years for that person. If it's a small child, you're looking at the 2-year-old who's throwing a tantrum and having a meltdown in the shopping mall. You have to think about, okay, how are you going to get that child to be from 2 years old to 12 years old to where he can recognize that he's got a problem and speak up rationally about it and ask a question or object to something and say, I don't like this or I don't want to do that, rationally without throwing a meltdown tantrum. I mean, we can look around at the news and see that there's plenty of adults today who obviously never got past that. Their parents did not think about that. But we're used to thinking about it. You think about that for the 2-year-old. Then when you've got a 12-year-old who's able to rationally talk and think about his needs and not throw total meltdown tantrums, you're now thinking about 22. How is he going to move from being taken care of by people who keep his life in order and keep a roof over his head to providing for himself and planning for making his own plans for his own future, not always relying on mom and dad to do it? So you're thinking, you see what I'm saying? You're thinking 10 years ahead. Well, now apply it to yourself. When you were in high school, you were thinking 10 years ahead. Were you going to go to college? Were you going to pick up a trade, take an apprenticeship somewhere, sign up for the military, all that stuff? You were thinking about the next 10 years. In your 60s, 50s, and 60s, as I said, you're thinking about finances. As you get into your 60s and 70s, you're now thinking about your 80s and 90s. And you have to recognize, even if you're Bill Gates and Elon Musk and these other people that think they're going to live 1,000 years with the help of their magic computers, I don't really envy them because I don't think they are, but you still have to consider that your health will decline. And you're going to have to consider, and most of us, I'm not talking to the Bill Gateses and Elon Musks of the world, the trillionaires and billionaires. I'm talking to the average people like you and me, that maybe just one step away from, living paycheck to paycheck, maybe living 2 paychecks beyond, but not much more than that. So you have to start thinking about what you have to provide for yourself so that you maintain your independent living as long as possible. Now, I have worked in nursing homes and hospice, as well as done private care back in the 1980s and 90s. As an artist, I always had a day job, and frequently my day job was elder care. And I, therefore, had some exposure to Alzheimer's at its various stages, even at its most advanced stages in other people, and I saw what worked for them. One of the things that many people who work with the elderly in nursing homes and settings like that will tell you, they're very dependent on their environment. Because, think about it, dementia attacks inside the mind. We're used to organizing our life from inside our mind. Thinking about, well, what am I going to do today? Am I going to need this? Should I get my winter clothing out? All these things we think about in our mind, and then we go do them. But when dementia sets in, the inner mind is not working that well. But the senses to the outside world are. The problem is, for example, if it's cold outside, a person with Alzheimer's might not connect the feeling of cold with the idea that either you have to stay in the warm space or you have to put on a heavy coat. They might not make that connection, but they are sensitive to the fact that it's cold. So you have to think about these things for yourself. One of the things that a person should consider, if you're in your 70s and you're looking forward to your 80s, like I say, 10 years ahead. I'm pushing 73, so I'm looking at early 80s. If you're going, you need to look at your environment and say, okay, I need to start preparing my environment to care for me. It means this is really important to simplify and declutter. Take a good hard look at all the stuff you have around you that you use now, that you manage now. Look for ways to simplify and declutter. Consider that as you get into advanced age, your personal creature comforts, your ability to relax and sleep in a comfortable bed, your ability to enjoy a good meal, those are going to be the most important things for you after a certain age. So what you do, as I say, look around, start decluttering, simplifying. You may have belongings that, if they give you visual and tactile pleasure, keep them, like your beautiful things that you have hanging on your wall or whatever. As you get older, you're going to continue to enjoy those things. Something about people with Alzheimer's is sometimes they develop sensitivities to particular colors. I remember one lady that I took care of, she was just so happy if she could look at something that was yellow. And we had certain paintings that we would put on the wall and point her towards them, and she would just see the yellow flowers or a yellow canary or something. She liked yellow. And I had a friend who was taking care of an elderly Alzheimer's person, and she said that she had discovered that the best way to keep her lady from going into spaces in the house that she didn't need to go into, and was going to cause a problem, like opening a closet and getting into stuff. She found that if she put a big black square of cotton, just taped it to the closet door, that lady did not like that color black. She would stay away from that closet. So she got herself some bandana-sized pieces of black cotton, and she would just put them here and there in the house where she wanted to keep the elderly lady from going over and getting her hands into something that was going to cause a problem. So I have no idea if that's a common thing. She's discovered that with the lady she worked for. I discovered with the one I worked for that I didn't just discover it. Everybody who works with her knew it, that if you wanted to keep her happy, make sure there was something yellow in the room. And I know that sounds a little bit silly to say, well, I'm never going to be like that. Well, first of all, you don't know. That lady who liked the yellow so much, she was a music teacher and a choir leader and a very busy person in her earlier life. So you don't know what's coming down the road. And all I'm saying is, when you've passed your 40s and 50s, when you did all your financial planning, and hopefully you're now enjoying the fruits of that planning, now you have to start planning for your 80s and 90s. You're going to plan to need less, okay? There's no reason for you to need enough money to support a McMansion and a two-car garage, and you have to keep hiring pool maintenance people. You just don't need to live like that when you're too old to enjoy that space anyway. So you plan your downsizing. Maybe plan to downsize in place by letting other people have some of the other space, or maybe just sell it all and downsize into a new, smaller space, and make that space think about creature comforts, not gadgets that you have to use, okay? If you spend your money on toys, as you get older, you're not going to understand you're going to lose the ability to enjoy them. So you make sure you have beautiful color, beautiful sensual stuff around you, and you simplify your life, because we're not going to have that many younger people when when people my age now, us boomers that are in our 70s now, when we're hitting those 90s, my dad and ma in their 80s and 90s, before they passed, they were surrounded by their children, grandchildren, great-grands. I think they were down to they were into double greats, and I think there was one actual triple great. There was one baby that was on my daddy's knee in the year before he died that I believe was a triple great-grandchild. Because he was 92 when he died. And the people in my family tended to marry young. I was almost an old maid because I got married at 19. But anyway, that's something to think about. Also think about it in the friendships you form. Think about how you're providing for the future. And also, while we're on that subject, some of you go into church and you say, well, I tithe to my church and they're going to take care of me. Well, number one, you have no idea how many stupid religious faction fights are going to happen between now and your 80th and 90th birthdays, number one. Number two, as what you might call a home church, disorganized Christian, think about tithing. Tithing is a good thing because it forces the people who tithe to look at their entire income and prioritize, okay? And of course the first priority is the Lord if you're a tither. And if you're tithing to a reasonably well-run, morally upstanding church group, then you're probably okay for a while. But if you read the Bible, if you're going to go along with the Bible system, you need to read it and know what the system is. You're supposed to tithe to the poor. Modern religion has reinterpreted the word poor to mean you give it all to the pastor, and theoretically he gives it back out to the poor. It's not what the Bible says is supposed to be going on. The priests and religious people in the Bible were not providing welfare for the poor. In Leviticus, it says you're to give your alms, your money, whatever, to the poor, as you are on your way to the temple, so that by the time you step foot in the church, you've already done your tithing. Now you're here to be with the Lord. That's the actual Bible description of tithing, in my personal opinion. I'm no authority. But bearing that in mind, consider who are the poor. We think always of the people around us. Say, well, this means I have to run around giving all my money to the bums on the street corner. Some of whom have more money than we do, but they're spending it on drugs and stupid stuff, and that's why they're on the street corner. No. When you're old and you need somebody to clean your house, Are you going to hire a millionaire, or are you going to hire a poor person? When you're old, you're going to be hiring poor people to help you with the things you can't do for yourself. Even if you're going through an agency and getting a professional home caregiver, she's or he's going to be, paid a living wage, but they're really socially going to count as poor. So what you do, my friend, is you tithe to your future, because you're going to give that money to the poor in the future. You see where I'm getting at? Tithe to your own future. And maintain your priorities. But really, the important thing is people in their 60s and 70s and possibly earlier really start looking around and thinking about how to provide for your needs, which may include how can I provide for the needs of somebody younger that will come in to help. That's the tithing to the future part. I just wanted to leave you with these thoughts because, as I said, I keep looking around and I keep thinking, we're worried about all the major crises of the day, which we got plenty, big, spectacular, dramatic, crazy stuff going on. But it's this quiet, creeping tsunami of the change from a youth-oriented society to an elder-dominated society that we really have to start thinking about. God bless. Take care. And I'll catch you later. Denise Matteau, over and out.